So then there was my call to be a bishop, and I remember when I was ordained as a priest, that I loved my first parish and I loved the primary schools, but when the thought of then also becoming a high school chaplain came up, even though I was loving everything I was doing, I was really excited about the fact of now becoming a school chaplain, and I was delighted with that. Probably there was a bit of human ambition in all of that, and then I thoroughly enjoyed being a school chaplain, a high school chaplain. But then when Cardinal Winning asked me to become chaplain at university, I was delighted, so full of hope and joy. And again, probably there was human ambition there. It's natural, isn't it, that we're ambitious for things. And then, but after about 10 years working in the chaplaincy, I remember after one of the Sunday masses, surrounded by all the people who had really become family and friends, I remember thinking to myself, if this is it for me for the rest of my life, I am the happy man. I don't want to go anywhere else. I found my place in this world. I found my peace. I don't want to have no desire, no ambition to move on. And then obviously a couple of years later I got that fateful call from Pope Francis Nuncio in London to come and see him. And I was invited to be, he presented me with this letter because when he spoke to me about being Bishop of Paisley, I was asking this question, that question, the other question, and at a certain point he stopped and he said, Father John, if you read this letter which I've given you, Pope Francis isn't asking you if you would like to be Bishop of Paisley. Pope Francis has already appointed you to be the Bishop of Paisley. He said, you're perfectly free, but you're already appointed. And it brought home to me what is always the case, is that it's not you who chose me, I chose you, and I appointed you to go out and bear fruit that will last. So for me, it didn't matter whether I wanted to be a bishop or not, whether I wanted to stay where I was or not. The Pope, the Lord through the Pope, had appointed me as a bishop, and that was the end of the story. And then I trust in him. And after I was appointed, the nuncio suggested that within 6 weeks I would find a date of ordination, and I chose the feast of St. Joseph, who was very dear to my heart. But I had little experience of Paisley Diocese, and he said, well, we'll make it official in a couple of days' time. And I asked, well, what do I have to do? He said, just be in Paisley Diocese when it's announced. So I gathered in the kitchen of the curial offices, but I phoned Bishop John Moan, who had been the Bishop of Paisley, and I asked him if he would be with me, and he very kindly said yes. So the two of us were here in the office just as the news was being announced in Rome, with a cup of tea and some toast. And then eventually my cell phone started to go red hot with as the news began to spread. But that was the first moment that Bishop John had shown himself a father to me, and I was fortunate enough to have him with me for 2 or 3 years before he went to the Lord. And he was always accompanied me with confirmations, and I was glad of that, because the people didn't know me, but they'd known him for 25 years, and they knew that, and I knew that they would try to see in me something that they'd seen in Bishop John. And that really struck me on the day of my ordination. Hardly anyone in Paisley knew me, but as I arrived an hour or so before my ordination, I was amazed to see that there was queues to get into the cathedral. They went all along the Glasgow Road, and not only in the cathedral was too small, and so we'd taken all of the rooms in our cathedral halls, and every one of those rooms was also full of people. And not only was that not enough, but they'd had to hire the local sports centre across the road for the overflow. And it struck me, nobody knows me. They're not here to see John Keenan. They're here because they've got a bishop they've got a Bishop of Paisley, and what they were thinking about was all the bishops they'd had. They were thinking of Bishop Tertullian, Bishop John Moan, and Bishop Stephen McGill, and Bishop Black. All of the service that those bishops had given, the sacrifice of their lives, were now surrounding me, and they were seeing all of that invested in me. So it was a moment of great encouragement for me. I'm not walking in new shoes, I'm walking in well-trod shoes of faith, but also a moment of humility, is that what the people see is not just the person, but what they see is the shepherd given to them by God.